Welcome, Mr. Dave Kilminster of Roger Waters' band to Linea Rock.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure for us to have you here. Guitar virtuoso, as you've been defined, named Guitarist of the Year in '91 on Guitarist magazine, UK, world famous magazine actually, and then a brilliant career after that. You're in Milano for another series of shows with Roger for the Wall, and which is one of the hottest tour in 2011. So how is it for you to be part of it and this huge, spectacular event? Since you weren't there in the very first place, when the record was composed and everything. So how is different for you?
I wasn't there, and I didn't even hear it when it came out. I didn't. This sounds very sacrilegious, but I actually bought it April last year.
Really?
And that was the first time I ever heard the album.
Uh-huh.
But obviously this tour is a huge privilege to be a part of this. It just feels. It almost feels like history in the making, in a strange way. It feels so epic, and it feels so. I don't know whether it changes people's lives, but it certainly makes people think. A lot of my friends who've been to the show, they talk to me afterwards, and they say, I was just in floods of tears, and and it's really, you can see it affects certain audiences. Sometimes the audience are maybe not quite sure how to react. Yeah. Some of the German audiences were a little quieter, and I don't know. I'm sure they enjoyed it, but maybe it was just they were kind of thinking about some of the images that were being shown on the wall and thinking about the messages, and I don't know. I've still yet to see it, unfortunately. I'd love to see it one day, but it does feel very, very special.
And how different is for you? I mean, the fact that you're staying behind the production for almost all of the show, so it's very different than any other thing that you've done before.
It is weird, actually. It is. There's no getting away from it. It is slightly unusual. I don't know if you've ever been to a cinema. You're watching a film, and you look behind you, and you see the lights.
Yes.
And that's what we see.
Okay.
So we're not actually seeing the film, we're just seeing the lights. And you're playing away and you think, well, this is kind of this is weird. And people are cheering at certain events, and you're thinking, what's going on? I have no idea what's going on. I mean, I know certain parts, and I've watched certain bits on YouTube.
Yeah.
And actually, Roger, being the perfectionist that he is, videos at every show, every night.
Wow.
From a little handheld camera. And when he gets back to his hotel room in the evening, or maybe in the next morning, he will watch the show and make notes.
Oh. And
then he'll come in the next day, change things, fix things.
I mean, still since the tour it's been running since a long time, but
yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've done about 120 shows, I think.
Yes.
And 5 or 6 shows ago, Roger said, I'm really not happy with the end of Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. And so he just composed essentially this new song. It's only about a minute and a half. And it's about the Charles de Menezes, the guy that got shot on the London Underground, because they thought he was a terrorist because he had a rucksack and he'd come out of an apartment that they were watching. It turns out he was completely innocent and just very unfortunate. So Roger was sort of moved by that story, and he's actually one of the pictures on the wall anyway. So Roger just composed this new piece. And it was kind of weird, you get into a little routine, you've been doing this show over 100 times now, and all of a sudden Roger says, right, let's change this, we're going to do something new now. And it's great, I love that. I love the fact that he's such a perfectionist about it.
You see, the biggest perfectionist that you dealt?
Without a doubt, yeah, totally. I've always admired that right from the very beginning. I remember when we did the Dark Side of the Moon tour. 2.5 years, we did that. That lasted, and we would sound check every day, and every day. Okay, yeah. Can we just work on the dynamics of that? Can we maybe change the sound of that? And constantly, every concert, even the very last one, even the very last one.
But is he nice or is bossy in a sense?
He's there's no I'm trying to think of the right way of saying this. He knows exactly what he wants.
Okay.
And essentially I'm employed to to make him happy. Yes. I think that's my job description, make Roger happy. So he wants to hear the solos on the record, so I play the solos on the record. Right. And he'll suggest certain things occasionally. He can be quite direct about it, but you don't take it personally. It's just, And
which is the best compliment that he made to you? Did he ever tell you why he picked you? You were the chosen one for the role.
Oh, that's a really good question. There have been several. Unfortunately, most of them I can't tell you because they are related to a certain other guitarist. But I'm just trying to think of one that's. I think actually when I did an interview for a guitar player, my first interview for a guitar player, and they just said, "Oh, would Roger be up for doing a quote?" And I said, "I don't know, I guess so." And so Roger just wrote back this thing saying that he found that working with me was like working with some sort of classical virtuoso, that you just put the music in front of them and they just play it perfectly. Yeah. And I thought, okay, that's nice, because it does feel like he does treat these albums as classical compositions. Essentially, it's like Holst with the Planets or Vivaldi with the Four Seasons. The compositions are written in stone, and then when you play them as close to the original as you can, as close to the manuscript.
So, as you already mentioned, you also did the Dark Side of the Moon tour.
I did.
Which of the two, the Wall and Dark Side, is more stimulating for you artistically? And do you have any freedom in doing, guitar parts and arrangements, or you have to stick note by note to the original masters?
Pretty much note for note.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain areas, like for example when I play Comfortably Numb, obviously on the record it fades out, but we kind of carry on. So I try to carry on in the spirit of the solo, rather than all of a sudden playing with my teeth or doing all the tapping and stuff. I'm trying to keep it still trying to keep it in context. So even if there is a little bit of space, I'm trying to be respectful of the Pink Floyd sound, which is obviously it's not my sound, but I just try and do the best job I can. And because I can play, I can copy guitarists fairly closely, and that's what I'm expected to do. I mean, for example, Snowy is a great guitarist in his own right. He's a blues player, which means that he doesn't play the same thing twice, and he doesn't really remember any of the Pink Floyd solos. He will sort of try and learn it, and then the next night he'll forget it. So, but he's allowed to do that because he's Snowy. But because Roger knows that I can do this, then I play everything pretty much the same note for note. Right. So there's not really much room for being creative. But I'm fine. I found both tours to be really interesting because they're focusing on different parts of my own playing. This tour particularly, I guess I was focusing more on trying to get the better sound.
Okay.
Or sounds that are more similar to the record. Unfortunately, I discovered Brunetti amps, who were made over here, and I wish I'd had them for the first tour because they just sound incredible. I can get a really gorgeous clean sound as well as an amazing overdrive sound.
And we're proud of it since they're retired.
You should be. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. I think I preferred material-wise, I think I preferred the previous tour.
Okay.
Because there were a few things. I mean, Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, I think it's an amazing tune. Used to love playing Wish You Were Here. Have a Cigar, I used to really enjoy. That's kind of a little bit funky. You know, I like things that are more kind of groove-based. But I guess on this tour I have more variety in instrumentation. I play classical guitar, I play banjo, I play Rogers bass on one number. I play the high strung at the beginning of Hey You. There's a lot of, they're both keeping me occupied, you know, both tours.
Hey, do you guys have time to hang out as a normal band? I mean, do you have any relation, like, you know, a normal tour? Because this one is a huge production, so maybe you just found yourself in the band with other persons that maybe you met just the first time that you played together, or how does it work? I mean, is it...
It's really nice. If we have a day off, we can do whatever we want to, and certain people will just generally hook up and go for dinner or whatever, but I mean, for me, I'm quite happy on my own. I love doing the sightseeing thing. I was in Paris recently and I just walked miles and miles. I just wanted to see as much of Paris as I could. Yeah. But there's always the option of just going out, and I think last time I was in Paris, actually, I went with Harry and Kip, and we went to Roland Garros to watch the tennis, which was wonderful. So it's really, you can spend as much time with these guys as you want to, and they're all really fun to hang out with as well. You know, everyone in the band is just some of the nicest people you could ever wish to meet. So it's.
And do you see Roger often, or just when showtime?
Oh no, we see him all the time. Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't. He doesn't keep himself away from the band. I mean, it's a band.
Okay.
It is a band,
That's
and
good.
he loves the fact that it's the band. And if we have a night off, then there's usually a band dinner, and you know, we eat the same, we drink the same. It's not he's jetting off to posh restaurants and we're at McDonald's or something. You know, it's just, it does feel like it's a family, really.
Is it ever intimidating working with him? I mean, he's huge creative talent, you know.
I think it was easier for me because I wasn't a huge Pink Floyd fan going into this. So when I first met him, it was like, "Hi, I'm Dave. Roger, nice to meet you." And I mean, I've taught loads and loads of guitarists. I've got loads of guitar player and friends who are just huge Pink Floyd fans.
Yes.
I mean, the biggest Pink Floyd fans you can imagine. They know all these tunes. They had the album when it came out, and but I just think if they were in a similar situation sometimes, that maybe they would just crumble with how intimidating it could be. You know, I mean, that whole thing, standing on top of the wall playing the Comfort Me Numb solo is.
So you really never had a Pink Floyd record at home before? You know, I mean, it's true. Wow.
Yes. I had
strange.
I had Wish You Were Here because I used to write for a guitar magazine called Guitar Techniques, and I did about 14 years of transcribing. Okay. And one month they asked me to write out Have a Cigar. Okay. So I went out and bought the album. And I really like the album, actually.
So when you very first started to play guitar, which were your influences, your main influences back then?
I guess I started guitar unusually because we didn't have a piano. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play piano. I was a big Keith Emerson fan, due to my uncles playing their albums when I was young, and also one of my uncles is a really good sort of jazz pianist as well. And some of my earliest musical memories is of him playing the piano in the front room, and I would just sit on the sofa and fall asleep listening to him play. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play piano, so I kind of took guitar up as I just needed something to play, to make music. And then I started listening to some of my friends' albums, which were things like Pat Travers, Rory Gallagher, Yes. And then I discovered Van Halen, which kind of changed everything. It changed things for a lot of people, I'm sure, but I was a Van Halen kid. So that made me practice and get some technique together. Because when I started playing, I could kind of play, you know, I was hearing Jimmy Page and Rory Gallagher and all these guys, and I thought, yeah, I can do that, I can play that. And then I heard Van Halen, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have to practice, which was great, you know. It's nice, I loved the challenge. But it was, I think it was partly the sound as well that attracted me, the sound, the tone of the guitar, his rhythm playing, which is amazing, great vibrato. Yeah. I suppose after that, you know, Led Zeppelin, as I mentioned, Black Sabbath, Queen were a huge influence actually. Okay. Musically, probably more than any other band I can think of. You know, I remember when Bohemian Rhapsody came out, and I heard, you know, you got the piano intro. I love piano anyway. Mm-hmm. Singing, then you got all the harmonies come in. I love harmony. I used to sing in a choir at school, so I love hearing harmonies. And then this heavy section at the end, I thought, wow, what is this? You know, I'd never heard anything like it before. It was just, it was probably the first thing that actually got me into rock music, was that tune. It's astonishing. And the solo still stands up today. It's been one of the best guitar solos ever, I think.
And which is the hardest thing? To have the good technique, to learn the technique, or you know, to pour heart and soul in the music? Which is the hardest thing to do?
I guess the technique is the hardest thing, because that involves practice and work. I mean, anyone can pour their heart and soul into playing something. You give someone a drumstick and they'll hit that cymbal with everything they've got, you know. Okay. Whether it sounds any good or not is another thing, but that's where the technique, you know, and there seems to be the two different schools of technical players and people that play with feel, as they call it. And I've never seen why there are two different schools, you know. For me, technique is a way that I practice technique so that when I play, it just flows through completely. There's nothing kind of getting in the way of how I feel emotionally, you know. I would love to be at the stage where I could do that perfectly, and I can't, so I'm still practicing. But for me, it feels the same whether I'm playing a Paganini piece or whether I'm playing Smells Like Teen Spirit, you know. It's just exactly the same. It's the same feeling.
So guitarist, vocalist, engineer, producer, writer, instructor. How do you figure yourself the best in all, you know, these things that you do?
God, I don't know. I guess it's just different sides of my personality. Okay. They all fulfill a different need that I have. It's like when people say, "Oh, what's your favourite food?" And I think, well, why would you want to eat the same food all the time? I don't have a favourite food. I like different food. And sometimes you're in the mood for curry, sometimes you're in the mood for pizza, sometimes it's Thai, sometimes it's all different.
And being so complete, you know, you can do anything, so it's, I mean, that helps.
But it's taken a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Sure.
But it's just because I've never been happy, never been satisfied. I'm not gonna. I'm always hearing guitar players in different styles or whatever, and I think I want to be able to do that. You know, I hear jazz guitarists, or I hear a slide guitarist, or someone playing country. I think, why can't I do that? I want to be able to do that, and I will sit down and I will work at it and try and get somewhere near. And then as soon as I start getting somewhere near there, then I hear something else. I'm like, oh, what's that? And then I start going, and then it's, oh, you know. So I don't feel like I've mastered anything at all, but I'm still having fun with the instrument. I think it's an amazing instrument to play with. So,
did you suffer some way the participation of the other Dave, Mr. Gilmour, to the London show of the Wall on, you know, May 12th? How can you describe that from your point of view? How was that?
This is actually the first time I've talked about this.
Okay.
To be honest, from the very first moment it was announced, it was, how can I say, it was a pain in the ass. Because then all of a sudden people say, "Oh my God, is tonight going to be the night that Dave's playing, or is it?" You know, and then you see reviews saying, "Oh, this, best show in the world, best show." The only thing that would have made it better would have been to have Dave Gilmour playing. And I know it's, I understand it from their point of view, but it also feels like, okay, so it's going to be better without me, or they're secretly hoping that it's the night when I'm not actually playing. And it's difficult to kind of deal with that over a few months, It's because I'm going out there and I'm doing the best I can and trying to make people happy. And I, obviously Pink Floyd fans want to see those two guys back together again. So I can see it from their point of view, but I'm also seeing it as people are just hoping that it's the night when I'm not playing. And ego-wise, it's not fun. So actually, when he finally did the London show, it was like, thank God for that. That's finally done, out of the way. People can stop talking about it. People can watch it on YouTube and compare if they want to, or whatever. It's just, it was a thing, and I was actually out in the audience when it happened, because I wasn't, he's obviously taken my job for that tune. So me and Robbie the singer, we just kind of walked out to the front. And we thought, this is going to be kind of neat. And when the crowd realised it was Dave Gilmour up there, it was an amazing feeling. Everyone went absolutely crazy.
And you filmed those London shows for the DVD, and you're about to film again in Athens, or
we didn't film the London.
Okay.
We were originally going to film them.
But but didn't happen. Okay.
No, I think they decided it was just too much pressure, because London is very stressful anyway, as is New York and LA. So they just They did film the part with Dave though.
Okay.
Not sure what they're going to do with it.
All right.
I have no idea. It might be an extra for the wall. It might just be. I have no idea.
But in a few days, you're definitely filming the Athens shows.
Yes,
so,
4 days time.
Does this put any extra pressure on you?
Of course it does. Of course it does. All of a sudden, there's this huge microscope that comes down on you, and this huge camera. It says, "Right, relax." But we've got 3 shows to record, so.
Okay.
I've played this show over 120 times, so if I can't play it right now, then I shouldn't be there. I think between the 3 nights we'll have a.
But being in a show like this is easiest in a sense, since everything is calculated, or it's tougher in a sense because of that.
There's a bit of both actually.
Oh, okay.
There's definitely a bit of both. Certain things. There's a track called Is There Anybody Out There, which is a classical guitar. I love playing classical guitar, but there isn't any classical guitar players that play with the click all the time, because it feels really bad. But this show is with a click, so ding 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 ding. So it kind of has to be perfectly in time, and it doesn't feel right for me, being someone that wants to kind of express it a little more. And the other thing that didn't help, we played in Paris the other day, and I've been trying to turn, I have a volume control on my pack, so for the classical thing I think, okay, I'm going to turn the click down as much as possible, so it's just a little faint thing, and I can maybe just move slightly. So we started playing this 2 nights ago in Paris, and the audience starts clapping along and speeding up. And I'm like, no, stop clapping. So I've got the click doing that, and then they're doing that, and I'm like, that was really off-putting.
But you didn't miss anything.
I didn't miss.
Yeah,
no,
so that's good.
No, but you just have to really focus on that. So that feels strange. There's certain things that when I start Hey You, that always feels a little too fast for me. If I was playing it naturally, I would play that a little slower, and then maybe build it up a little more as you play the tune. I'm not mad keen on clicks in general. It feels artificial, and nowadays obviously everything on the radio is recorded with a click and auto-tuned, and there's just there's no feeling there. Nothing's left. Everything's kind of cut up and quantized, and everything's perfect, and it just there's no emotion there.
And during the tour, did anything more human happen, like any mistake or something like that?
Mistakes?
Yeah.
Not for me. Not for me, no, come on.
No, I mean, maybe during, the show, something that was about to happen that didn't happen.
Sure. Yeah. There's a part, there's the hotel room part. Can't remember the name of that tune. What's that called? I can't remember. You know the part that the
yes,
door comes down.
Yes.
Roger's in a hotel room. I think we were in Oslo, and that door was just not going to come down. So we were all sort of standing backstage going.
Yeah.
And in the end, we gave up, and Roger went out and he told a story. Because he's actually great at stories. He does this a lot when we go for dinner. He just stand up and tell jokes, and he's amazing. And so he just told this story about Mikhail Gorbachev, about meeting him and asking him. He'd heard a rumour about something, and it was great. It was actually really nice to add. I remember it being Oslo. I remember that because something went wrong. Yeah. You always remember the ones that go wrong. That was probably the worst thing that's happened. Which is, considering it's such a highly technical show, is quite amazing, really.
Another great friend and colleague of yours that you already mentioned is another legend, which is Mr. Keith Emerson. How can you describe your relationship with him? And is it true that you actually inspired him to go back on the road? Is that a true story?
That's what he says, yeah. I can't even... It makes me emotional just thinking about it, because Keith was such a huge influence on me when I was younger. The music of... It wasn't even so much the band, it was just his playing. When he plays the Hammond or when he plays the Moog are obviously wonderful, but his piano playing is just sublime, really. And so I kind of grew up listening to that, and then to hear him say things like that about me is just, it's... I don't know where to put it, emotionally I don't know where. One of the greatest compliments for me was about 2 years ago. He phoned me up. He was in England, and he told me his mother had died, and who I knew, he was incredibly close to his mother, and he said, I'd like you to play a tune with me at her funeral. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It's just, we've always, I don't know, we have an amazing relationship. It just feels very spiritual, for want of a better word, I guess. I remember the very first time I met him, and we were talking about getting a band together, and then went back to his hotel room, and he was writing his book at the time, and he said, let me read some of it to you. So we sat on his sofa, and he starts reading the bit, and it's the bit about when he's going to go in for this huge arm operation that he was obviously really scared about. I think they were going to move. There's a nerve called the ulnar nerve, which is the one that goes down there, and he'd been having problems with it. So they were going to move it from that side to that side. Yeah. And he was obviously scared that he wasn't going to be able to play again, And he started reading this story about Cole Palmer going to pick him up, and then he just started crying. Wow, special. It's really special to actually be that, to feel that comfortable with me, to be, And it's a shame because we never got to do what we had intended to do, I guess. The next step for the Keith Emerson band at that time was to go in and record an album with some songs that we've been working on. And I was also recording my album Scarlet at the time, and I remember being in the studio, and my manager came in all excited. He said, "Oh, I've just heard that Roger Waters is looking for a guitarist for, 3-month tour, I think it was. So he told me the time scale, and I said, well, I've already got 2 weeks with Keith Emerson in America then.
Yeah.
So I obviously can't do that. I can't go for an audition when I've already agreed to do some other work. Sure. So I didn't think anything more of it for maybe 2 days. And then I had an email from Keith's manager just saying, really sorry, we've had to cancel the American dates.
Wow. So that was like
and I took
a trick of destiny.
Yes. I took that as a sign, because I believe in signs, and I think, okay, I have to go for it. I didn't believe I would get it.
Yeah.
I never believed for 1 second that I would get the gig. But I just thought, okay, I'm going to go along, I'll meet someone there, maybe I can play them my album when it's finished, whatever, So I went along, got the audition. And then about 2 days after I got the audition, I had another email from Keith's manager saying, don't worry, we've got the American dates back.
Oh God!
I'm like, can you believe that? This tiny little door just opened. Yeah. It was almost like fate saying, no, you should be going that way.
So what did you do?
Well, by that time I'd already agreed to do the things with Roger. So I said, I'm really sorry, I can't do that, because, essentially at the end of the day I'm a musician and I need to work. And I need money to pay for stuff just like everybody else. And it obviously affected our relationship. It upset Keith on a personal level.
Okay.
But we've talked since then. As I said, I played at his mother's funeral. We have talked about getting something together in the future. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, you're great friends, so I'm sure that everything will get fixed.
Yeah, I have a lot of things coming up in the future. So.
And another great friend of yours is John Wetton.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how was the relation with him?
Well, I have to thank John for basically giving me my first break, I guess. My first tour was with John in, when would that be, 97? I'm not sure. Very first tour I ever did was with John Wetton playing in Japan, which was incredible. Which was absolutely incredible. That's
the best memory you have.
Yes.
With working
of course.
with him. Oh.
Yes. I mean, unfortunately, you probably know he was a serious alcoholic, and so that caused a lot of problems. And I have some very bad memories of some experiences with him about that.
All right.
So it's difficult to kind of separate that from where he is now. So, obviously now he doesn't drink anymore, and he's very happy and doing the Asia thing again. And I wish him all the best. It's great, but there was some times I just really didn't want to be there.
There's a statement about you, which is the best guitarist since Hendrix, from Congo member John Young. Is that a big responsibility for you, being defined like that?
I can't take these things seriously. I mean, it's I really can't. My manager thinks I'm the best guitarist in the world, and I'm like, you have no idea. No. You have no idea, because I know that there's people that are way better than me. But I just do the best I can, and hopefully make people happy. And actually, on this tour, I know it's kind of it's a nice, it definitely makes people happy.
That's very humble of you.
I can't be any other way. I can't be any other way about it. I'm very realistic. I've studied guitar enough to know that I'm not as good as I'd like to be. I wouldn't ever dream of making excuses about stuff, but I know I've had some quite bad arm problems. That's about 4 operations in the same place, which stopped me practicing for, essentially about 4 or 5 years, I think. I really couldn't play much. I mean, I could play, but not really. It was almost like driving with a handbrake on. You could never kind of get going properly. and so I wouldn't say I lost interest in the guitar, but I stopped trying to get better because it would just physically hurt. But now I want to get better again. I really want to get better again, and I've got some gigs coming up with Guthrie Govan, so I need to be on my top form because he is amazing.
Yes, we know about that.
You do know about him.
We met him actually, and it was quite great.
He's one of the nicest people you could wish to meet, and probably the best guitarist on the planet, if there is such a thing. And I love playing gigs with him. That's such a cool thing. You know, I guess for me, I don't really do the ego thing. I don't have any interest in that. I just want to make music. So if I'm playing some simple chords behind what Guthrie's doing and it sounds amazing, then I'm really happy.
Fans that are starting to know about you now because you have this huge visibility with Roger, and want to know you better, which are the 3 records that you've done in the past that you would suggest them to pick to know, you better?
Well, funnily enough, I've just put 3 albums on iTunes. One of them it's my first ever album that I did, which was recorded mid-90s, I guess. 14, 15, 16, I really don't remember. But that was on classical guitar.
All right.
So it's just me and a student, one of my guitar playing students at the time. We'd been listening to a lot of Michael Hedges, and there's an album called Passion, Grace and Fire by John McLaughlin, Audi Miola and Paco de Lucia, which is amazing, and we were sort of trying to go in that sort of direction, I guess. So I wrote a whole bunch of tunes, and we called the album Playing with Fire because it felt very passionate. I love playing classical guitar anyway, and it seemed fitting that after winning Guitarist of the Year playing electric guitar that I should go out and record an album on classical guitar. It's in my personality. If people are going that way, I will go that way. I can't help it. So I guess there's a huge part of me in that album. The other album that I put up is an album called Scarlet, which I'd sort of released in a demo form a couple of years ago. I sort of rushed to finish it in between Roger tours.
Okay.
And again, being a perfectionist, I was never actually happy with it. So, and I just couldn't let it go because I thought if it deserves to have a better send-off than I'd given it. So I went back to the studio, fixed a few things, remixed it, remastered it. So that's now on iTunes now. It's called The Director's Cut.
Okay.
Because I felt like this time I was actually in charge of how it was going to sound.
Alright.
And the third album is called Closer to Earth, which is an album that I did on acoustic guitar with a friend of mine who's one of my favourite singers ever, a guy called Murray Hockridge.
Okay.
He's just got an incredible voice. We've been working together on and off over the last couple of years, and we decided to record. What we want to do is record our own material, obviously. So we experimented with different ways of recording ourselves, because when we play live, there's something magical that happens, essentially, and then you get into a studio and you do 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 do. You've got all that stuff to contend with. And do we want to record with a click track? Do we want to record the 2 acoustic guitars together, or should I play acoustic and should Murray sing? Or so what we did was just recorded some cover versions.
Okay.
We thought, let's just experiment. We'll do some covers, experiment with different ways of recording, and after a couple of days, we had 16 cover versions. And we listened back to these tunes and thought, this is great. And I very rarely say that about anything that I ever do, but I just kind of listened to it. I thought, there is something here. This is really cool. So we edited it down. Actually chopped out a couple of numbers, added some extra numbers, because we wanted to. I think if you're recording cover versions, then you should be doing something with them. You know, we weren't recording covers just because we couldn't write our own material, you know. It's not like a boy band where we're taking a good tune and completely ruining it. We wanted to take it somewhere else. So there was a couple of things that we recorded. We thought, well, it's okay. We haven't really done much with it though, so we just binned that. And we ended up with, I think, 11 tracks for this album called Closer to Earth. So that's on iTunes now as well.
All right.
We're going to be touring America with that in September, as far as I know.
Okay, so that's the next
That's
thing
going
that
to be
you're
the next
going to
thing.
be after the war.
Yes,
Okay.
next thing is going to be with Murray, and then later on in the year I've got some dates back in Italy with Guthrie, which I'm really looking forward to.
All right.
I mean, I love playing in Italy anyway. It's such a cool place. Yeah, you're
Thank
so
you.
lucky to live here.
Thank
You
you.
really are.
Well, we have our problems as well, but
Well, of
it's
course,
a good place.
of course. But I have to say, just briefly, I played "Run Like Hell" last night.
Mhm.
Played the guitar intro,
Yeah.
and the audience started clapping. So it was just me and the audience, and I got the click in my head, and they were perfectly in time.
Okay.
And it's the only place in Europe where you would get that. Seriously, nowhere else in Europe, because everyone would start. You know, they were perfectly in time. It's unbelievable.
That's a great compliment.
Oh, it was so good. I love Italian audiences. They're just amazing timing, and just the singing thing they do at the end of the show as well. It's just yeah. I love being here. I really do. I've always said that. I kind of felt like I was maybe Italian in a previous life, and unfortunately this time I ended up in England, which is pretty gruesome. But I might have to fix that soon.
Do you have any secret dream or lifelong ambition that you still have to reach?
Oh God. To be honest, I've never been that ambitious. I just want to play music. I love playing music. I love travelling. It would be nice for me personally to get some more of my own music out.
Okay.
You know, because I think that's the satisfying thing is actually being able to record something of your own music and have it mean something to somebody. I remember one of the biggest compliments I ever had was it was about a year after that first tour in Japan with John Wetton, and I'd been selling these copies of Playing with Fire, the classical album, and I just had an email sent to my website from this girl, and she said, it was a very simple email, she just said, my father's just died, and the only thing that's getting me through at the moment is listening to your album.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what do you do with that? I'm feeling emotional just even thinking about it, but so yeah, I need to get some more of my own tunes out, I think, because I have a lot of music inside me. I've had to play other people's tunes to make a living. You know, not that I'm not regretting any of it. Obviously, I love playing the Floyd stuff. I've loved playing the ELP stuff and the Asia stuff and bits of King Crimson, bits of UK, but there's also parts of DK that I think people should be hearing as well. So yeah, I think another couple of solo albums, maybe even doing a solo tour. Which it would feel weird for me because I'm quite happy being part of something.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to be the focus.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, even though obviously when I do the Comfortably Numb solo, there's everything is kind of pointing at me.
Okay, so now the final funny question.
Funny question. Oh.
Are you connected some way to Lemmy of Motorhead, since you share the same surname? Is maybe your uncle or your relatives in some way, or?
Okay. It's not the same surname.
Okay.
It's a slightly different spelling. He
Okay.
hasn't got the N.
Okay.
This is Kilminster, not
Yes.
Kilminster.
All right. So.
So, and I know that because I've actually seen it spelt the same way as me as well.
Yeah.
But it is actually different. I know one of his ex-girlfriends, funny enough, and she said, yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, seriously, can you see a resemblance?
No.
That's the right answer. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks so much.
No, thank you. I feel like I've been talking non-stop for about 3 hours, but I'm sorry about that.
Okay, we will check out all the albums that you suggested, and thanks so much for your time, and hope to see you soon back in Italy with your music.
I will be back very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh.
Thank you.
Actually,